the end of the day, selling is transferring a feeling. If you don't have the feeling, you can't transfer it. If you don't have a good, positive feeling, dude, you're an actor. You have to sell and run your business from a place of positivity. And however you get there, God bless you. Welcome to the Pete Primeau Show. It is episode 121. And we are here with my friend Alex Milstein, and will be going deep on the likely mattress firm acquisition by TSI. But let's first pay the bills. If you haven't bought my book, what are you waiting for? Unless you have too many customers in your store, and if you do, you probably don't need my book. But if you do, there's 101 chapters with multiple ideas in each chapter on how you can sell more furniture and more mattresses. So if you haven't picked up my book, Sell a Million, go to Amazon and pick it up. What are you waiting for? Prices are going up, by the way, so get it while you can. Thank you, Steve Hauk, for sponsoring the Pete Primeau Show. The Mattress Industry Network group is a big part of our show and our first sponsor. We appreciate you more than you know. If you are in the mattress industry group, we want you in. If you are in the mattress industry, we want you in the Mattress Industry Network group. It is a great place for you to learn how to build, market, sell, and succeed in the mattress industry. Whether you're on the retail side of it, you sell mattresses for a retailer, whether you are a manufacturer, we want you in the group. Don't delay, join and say hi to me once you're in the group. Without a further ado, let's get to the show. Alex, good morning, or good afternoon, I should say.
Yeah, good afternoon, Pete.
We got a good one. It's kind of something that we've been talking about forever, a signed copy. Do you need one, Keith? If you need one, let me know. I'm happy to give you a signed copy. My old boss from Protect the Bed, and a great all-around guy who spent most of his career in retail and is just fabulous. So, Keith, it's always good to see you. So, Alex, back to you. We've been talking about this mattress firm acquisition. Then when they announced that it's going to happen, everybody assumes that it already happened and it's a done deal.
Right.
And some people are losing their minds. And I just have some advice to everybody. Just breathe. Just breathe. It hasn't happened yet. It's probably going to happen. I don't think they would have announced it if it wasn't going to happen. So, Alex, one of the things that strikes me about you is like you are the voice of reason in our industry. At the same time, you challenge us to be better. And it's one of the things that I love about you. You have this journalistic, very logical mind. And I think it's really important for us to kind of take the emotion out of, if this happens and this happens and we get so many dominoes in a row, it's like it doesn't even resemble reality anymore, the arguments that we're making to ourselves at times. So I'm going to let you start to unpack this, and then we'll just kind of take it from there. And if there's any questions, anybody that's listening, this is live right now. Alex wants your question. I want your question. We would love to hear what's on your mind about the mattress firm acquisition, or the likely mattress firm acquisition, because it hasn't happened yet. Unless I'm wrong. Has it happened and I didn't know?
No, you are correct, Pete. It has not happened yet. I know a lot of people kind of just assume that when an acquisition like that is announced that, it went through, but for sure this has not gone through yet. However, as Pete was saying, I do not think that they would have made this announcement if they didn't have, serious faith in the deal going through. I know from listening in on the Tempur Sealy earnings call the other week that they, they have kind of been looking at this deal for 7 years. So, they have this planned out. They've been talking to the FTC already for a couple of months. So, they wouldn't really come out with this kind of explosive news if they had any, bad faith that the deal was going to fall through. However, I wrote in an article this morning and for Betting News Now that this really is not, this isn't a doom and gloom situation. I think this is more of an opportunity situation.
Mhm.
And I think that there are a lot of different ways that retailers can find opportunities to, if they need to, for whatever reason, drop temper, which, worst case scenario. There are other lines they could pick up. They could do a private label program like Miss Kelly's did. There are so many other options. And, again, to the point of my article, there hasn't ever really been a manufacturer that has also doubled as a retailer and been successful. Really interesting little conversation I had this morning on Facebook with Joshua Rigsby, who's one of the owners of ESC Mattress. And so we were talking about Sleep Number and how Sleep Number's board was basically given the option, do you want to be a retailer or do you want to be a manufacturer? And, they had 300 retail stores, so they would have had to close those. Or, they had maybe 10 other retail outlets that they were selling to. So they decided to pull out from the manufacturing and, become the retailer that they are now. And that is part of their, success, that they, really are focused on the retail and not, doubling as both.
Yeah, that's a great point that Josh made. Um, and I agree that it's very difficult to be a really top-notch manufacturer and a top-notch retailer. They're essentially different hats.
Mm-hmm.
I think the folks at Temper Silly would be are smart enough though that they would keep these separate. But maybe I'm assuming too much. But thanks for sharing Joshua's insights there, because I know Joshua and I always like to get his point of view on things. He's a
Yeah,
good guy and
very smart
he
guy.
has some interesting things to say.
Mm-hmm.
When America's Mattress Count, Keith Burrell. Keith, that's a really good point. Keith Burrell is asking when America's Mattress Count as a manufacturer. So here's the interesting thing about that. Guys want some inside baseball on that? I wrote the pro forma. I wrote the 5-year business plan for that. I got to a point with my boss where he wanted me to change this, and the other and sign my name to it. And I said, I'll change this, but I'm not changing that. And I'm not changing that. It won't resemble reality anymore. And I'm not putting my name to it. And it didn't matter, because about a few weeks later, I quit anyway. So but America's Mattress was Serta's basically attempt at that. But those were franchises, Keith. Most of them. Some of them I heard, and I don't know that it's true, were heavily financed and heavily sponsored. So I understand where that sentiment comes from. But one of the interesting things is when America's Mattress first started, it wasn't strong enough. It was just Serta, so the Simmons component was not there. And in all the name brand studies for the first 20 years I was in the business, the name brands were basically um, Beauty Rest, and then it was Posturepedic, and then it was Sealy, and then it was Simmons, in that order. Serta didn't even come on the radar. And so Serta did not have any Simmons branded product to help with America's Mattress. So originally what they allowed is they allowed um, people to carry Temper, because the executives were smart enough at Serta to understand that the business would be stronger with Temper on the floor. And that was before Temper was owned by Sealy, or Temper owned Sealy, I should say. So that's a completely different situation. But I understand where you could, in broad strokes, go, well, that was an attempt by it. but it's a great conversation, and I thank you so much for bringing that up, Keith. America's Mattress at one point was actually could have gone that direction. It very easily could have gone directly under Serta ownership, but it did not. It was franchised out. One of the best guys I know in the business. I suppose he's watching. I'm not sure, but I can bet you his sales manager, superstar, aka Nicole, is watching, and that would be Scott Vaughn. Scott Vaughn was an America's Mattress franchise. He now owns Happy Z's. And America's Mattress was great when he was just learning the business. It was a done for you business plan, and everything was done. The ads were done. The floor plan was done. The training, everything was done. But as time went on, um, Scott became more educated, and after 15 or 20 years of that, he was able to reconfigure his own success formula called Happy Z's in Paducah and Benton, Kentucky, and they just do a great job there. So I hope I answered your question, Keith. If I didn't, anything you want to add to that, Alex?
No, I mean, I think kind of going back to Tempur and Mattress Firm, I think that they could be the exception where, I think they are going to be smart enough to keep the two entities separate enough that, they can succeed with both. They're a big enough company. They have the resources. So I do think they might be the exception to the rules. So speaking, of America's Mattress, if that counts, Tempur Sealy might be the first one to do it successfully. But that's all, just hypothesizing.
No. I don't think you're hypothesizing too awful far. I think there's some very smart, capable people there that have probably already thought this through and are probably heading in that direction. So, Alex, I'm going to ask you a question because I know you have a lot of contact with retailers, and that's part of why I love talking to you, because it's like I get to talk to 200 retailers at once when I talk to you, because you very often do not pick up the phone. You always call me back, but it's because you're already on the phone with several people and trying to chase down everything that's happening. And I love the fact that your ear is so low to the ground in the industry. So tell me, what concerns dealers are expressing with this mattress firm and TSI acquisition? What are their concerns?
So I think one of the biggest concerns is that TSI is going to go exclusive to Mattress Firm and stop selling to every other, retail partner that they work with, which, to that point, I honestly don't know. I don't think that they would be, I don't think that they would leave that much business, because as I also heard in the earnings call, they're planning on cutting back on the number of Mattress Firm stores. So I am hoping that they, do something positive for the industry in terms of sales and promotions, and cut out some of that, I would say, hurtful language, that consumers think of mattress stores. They go there when there's a sale and they look for the best deal, and, they're probably not getting the best mattress. And I think that hurts the industry to push that message to consumers. So hopefully, they'll be able to clean up some of that messaging, which I've talked to a few people about. And I think just one of the very real concerns is just the size of Tempur Sealy and the size of Mattress Firm. And it seems like a deal to end all deals, but I don't think it's really going to be that terrible in the long run. I think they're going to run it smartly, and really consider the rest of the industry, because if they make a bad move, I mean, there's still lawsuits that can come up. So they don't want to just push the deal through and then become the bad guy. I think they want to stay on the good side of the rest of the industry. So I don't think they're going to make any drastic moves that hurt retailers.
Have you talked to any retailers or executives, for that matter, or anyone in the industry with any thoughts of looking to the recent past when Mattress Firm acquired Sleep Outfitters, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
and what they did, how they behaved, and are there lessons there that would potentially apply to what's about to happen?
Not that specific deal for sure, but I have talked to a few people about, just in the past when manufacturers have, gotten into the retail game, and it really just hasn't worked out for anybody, as we were saying. Everybody kind of realized that they needed to go one way or the other, and I think there's a pretty obvious reason for that. You're competing against the stores that you want to be selling through, and so you could lose business that way. Um, but yeah, I can't think of any other ones specifically, but I think with all of the acquisitions and mergers that Mattress Firm has gone under in the last 20 years, um, I think the lesson is that you need to separate. You need to figure out what you really need to do with each thing, and you shouldn't cut corners. And I think Tempur is actually going to be smart about that. They have been talking about moving products straight from their factories to Mattress Firm stores, and how much easier that can be for them. And so I think they've really thought this out. I don't think that this is something where you would ask the CEO a question and he would stumble on his words. I think they really know what they want to do. The CEO, Scott Green, said that this really was 7 years in the making. They have wanted to do this for 7 years, and I think that that shows that they really thought it through during that time to be able to finally pull the trigger and say, "Hey, we're gonna acquire them."
Yep. So the lessons, there's three lessons with the Sleep Outfitter merger that I've been privy to um, through retailers that I respect, and they kept a close eye on that because it affected them. Um, they didn't close any retailers, so this thing that TSI could potentially close retailers, maybe, uh, but I wouldn't think they would close any strong TSI retailers. If
Right.
if you've agreed to put 8 to 10 SKUs on the floor of Tempur, and you've been um, whittling away, and you're down to 2 SKUs after this acquisition, and they've been putting up with it, don't be surprised if you get dropped. I'm talking to store owners now. But they didn't close any retailers. And what they actually did is they closed the actual footprint. They made the footprint of Sleep Outfitters smaller. They closed a significant amount of stores. I think it was 20 to 30% of all the stores were actually closed. They just weren't performing, and they made good business decisions. The other thing that I've kind of heard is this concern about them making special product or not being able to compete on price. When they took Sleep Outfitters over, there was no special product at Sleep Outfitters. There still isn't to this day that I know of,
Mhm.
and there's no special pricing. That retailer is not going out there with any lower pricing than when Kim owned it. As a matter of fact, if anything, I would point back to your one of your original comments, Alex. Um, when Kim, who I have a lot of respect for, who built Sleep Outfitters into a powerhouse, um, when she owned it, they were much more loosey goosey with their retail pricing. If it was getting to the end of the month and they needed sales, they were cutting below MAP. It was pretty apparent from lots. Now, whether that was sanctioned by don't send me a text or an email, Kim. I love you and I respect you. And I respect everything you've done in our business and continue to do in our business as a consultant. But they were cutting price. And I'm not hearing that they're cutting price nearly as much, even though some of that happens. So let's kind of go the opposite way, Alex. What if the worst thing happens, and that is they decide, you know what, here's a store, I'm not going to sell them anymore because it's just taking um, sales away from the Mattress Firm store. So let's just say, for the sake of this argument and doing a deep dive and just doing a deep dive justice, what would your recommendation be to that retailer? They get the cease and desist from TSI. You're no longer a Temper, Sealy, and Stearns. What are their options at that point? You already mentioned one, but
Mhm.
I'll let you kind of dish on that a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think there are so many manufacturers in our industry. Um, all it would really take is for another manufacturer to step in and, either, like I said, kind of private label a mattress program with a retailer, or, explain how their mattress could fill that void. And so I think there's an opportunity for manufacturers here to be really savvy in their presentation and marketing. And, if that does start happening, they have market share that they can pick up. And if they, really care about that market share, it's going to help the retailer who they are selling to also sell. And so it really is a symbiotic relationship that will work for both of them. I think that's, one good option. But I also think that if Temper Sealy becomes synonymous with Mattress Firm, the brand image is going to change. And I don't know that, the upcoming generation, like Generation Z and, millennials now, I don't know that they particularly care about brand name as much, especially when they can, either just order it online, or, they can go in and actually feel it and say, oh, this is a Diamond mattress. I've never heard of Diamond before, but it's a really great mattress, and, I want this one. So, I think there's definitely an opportunity to be had here. It's all about, looking on the bright side of things. You can sit in the gloom of, the largest manufacturer buying the largest retailer, but that's not going to get you anywhere when it really comes down to it. And so one great example is I talked to Keith Moneymaker at Sweet Dreams Mattress, Furniture and Mattress. And, he has this really great program called Dreams for All, where he donates used mattresses to people, who need them. And it's one of the great marketing, charitable marketing, programs that they do with the store. And he's also now scaling it so that other retailers can kind of adopt the program and do the same thing. And it really helps, your local community. It's not, you're not sending these mattresses overseas, you're sending them to the people in your community who need them. And it's a good way to both help your community, raise some awareness, and also, promote your store. So it's kind of three central check marks.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, because this link to your local community is one of the most important parts of being a retailer. Attaching yourself to that community, continuously saying thank you, and doing things that are important to the community, for the community, as a way of just saying thank you, um, and keeping your name out there, is just invaluable.
Yeah.
One of the questions that I ask retailers, and I asked this to a top 100, I said, who is the name brand? Are they the name
Yeah.
brand, or are you the name brand? If
Right.
you've been around for 50 years or 100 years, and you're a third or a fifth generation family owned business, you're the name brand. You always
Right.
have been.
Yeah.
This is just a wake up call, right? You're the
Yeah,
name brand.
exactly.
And,
Hmm.
you know, I I loved what you said, Alex, about viewing this positively or negatively, because I think it's a great opportunity to improve yourself as a retailer. I think that you need to look at your displays, what the customer sees when they walk into your store. Look at your advertising message to see if you've kind of kept up with it. And are you really talking about meaningful change and outcomes for your customer? Will they get a better night's sleep if they buy from you? And will they wake up happy and pain free, to steal a phrase from Jeff Janakovo from Gardner's Mattress? Um, if you are helping your customers wake up pain free and happy, and you are not using testimonials and 5-star online reviews in your marketing and modeling that, you're missing a huge opportunity. If you're doing a great job, you need to get credit for that. And then, what these different brands do, the pieces on the board that kind of move. Um, you know, I've heard of absolute horror stories at retail. Um, where manufacturers have done some things that they shouldn't do. And you would think, oh my Lord, all hope is lost. Guess what? Almost every time it turns out for the good. So I don't want anyone losing any sleep over what you believe the ramifications might be. One of the things that I've heard a lot, Alex, is this. Well, you know, they're going to drop SSB and it'll be all Stearns and all Sealy and all Temper, and then they won't need us as much. Now, let me just let's just play with this for a little bit because it's kind of fun. It,
Hmm.
it may not even be close to reality. First of all, there's there's a supply agreement. There's an agreement, and I don't know how much time is left on the SSB agreement, and I don't know when this transaction is actually happening. I'm starting to hear, and Alex, maybe you could just correct me if I'm wrong. I originally heard end of the year, nothing happens to end of the year. Now I'm hearing it's getting pushed out to 2024. What are you hearing? And then I'll come back to my question.
I believe the last thing I heard was early 2024.
Yeah, that's
I
what I'm
don't
hearing too.
don't want to give a month, but I think it was early. So yeah, it'll definitely be next year though.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. And
Hmm.
so let's just say, for the fun of it, that SSB is bumped off the floor. Do you guys out there really believe that SSB isn't smart enough to think about this ahead of time? I mean, they're not. I one of my biggest things that I've been saying this for almost all 41 years. I think it took me a few years to get my feet wet, but from my fourth year on, I've been saying this. The biggest mistake you will ever make in your life as a manufacturer, as a VP of sales, as a sales executive in our business, or as a sales rep in our business, is to assume that your competitor is dumb. Do not assume that. Assume that your competitor is super smart, and sometimes they'll disappoint us and they will do dumb things, and that's okay too. But so let's just say 2024, and I'm making all of this up, don't know, early 2024, let's just say March of 2024, the deal's consummated. SSB's got, I'm making this up and I don't know, 6 months left with their contract, and they get noticed and they're going to be off the floor. Alex, what do you think's going to happen with SSB's sales force when they're notified by Temper Sealy that they're being dropped?
Yeah, I think they'll
Something
definitely
like
have to.
a beehive and bees to honey.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, but leading back, I think that gives them an opportunity to be the brand name in other people's stores rather than in Mattress Firm. So if they wanted to really aggressively push that message, and if they could get the amount of retailers that it would take to make that successful, they could have a really big opportunity there. And the retailers could as well, because they could have a big brand name in their store if they lose Temper. So there's definitely some opportunities there, but that's a that would be a very interesting situation. And
Yeah,
you know,
I think that there's an old saying: "There's no situation that you can't sell your way out of if you can
mhm.
sell."
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
think that the talent that's at SSB will find a way to rise to the occasion, and they're not going to sit there and I going back to what you originally said, Alex, change brings opportunity, right? And
yep,
so you feel bad because you own a store and Temper was an important part of your store. And let's just say, and I really don't think this is going to happen in very many cases at all. Temper drops you, they drop you, and now who's walking through the door? SSB. And what are they doing? Giving you the deal of a lifetime, maybe giving you a deal that was twice as good as the deal that you had with Temper. And you
hmm
look up to the sky and you say, Lord, thank you. I always knew I was your favorite. So understand, please, that the more change that there is, the more opportunity there is. And don't sleep on the power of a private label, especially for companies that have been, in business longer than 40 years. If you've been in business longer than 40 years and you're second or third generation, you are the name brand, whether you acknowledge that or not. And no matter how important you think these name brands are, you're the most important name brand. And I'm going to say this to you. Don't you wish that 10 years ago, if this happens and Temper Sealy dropped you, wouldn't you wish that you had private labeled your mattresses 10 years prior? The answer would be yes. So now you're getting a little kick in the fanny by the universe to go ahead and private label now. And it might be the best thing in another 10 years. You look back and you go, that right there, that was my turning point. I should have private labeled 10 years ago. I didn't do it. I got forced into doing it against my will, and it turned out to be one of the best things I've ever done.
hmm
Sorry, I got on my soapbox, Alex. It happens.
No, that's a great point. It
You got
is.
anything to add to that?
No,
Jumping up on my soapbox.
I think you said it, Pete. That's great.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Well, we are getting to that point in time where I actually read one of my chapters. And one of the things that I really want everybody, hey,
Hey,
Jeff Chinakovo, how do you like my new Battlefield Alliance poster?
Jeff.
Jeff, you and your team sent that to me. I am a card carrying member of the mastermind. And if you are serious about succeeding in life and in business, be with winners. This is a great little book. I've read this before, but I just got a brand new one from Jeff and his group. The Law of Success by Napoleon Hill. Do not sleep on that book. It might have been written years and years ago, but boy, you could not read a better book. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. I could not join the group. So let me get back to what I was about to read. I lost my, I got so excited. I saw Jeff there and I said, oh, 5 marketing laws. So those of you who have your book at home, Nicole Superstar, AKA Superstar in Paducah, Kentucky, page 51, chapter 32, 5 marketing laws. And you're a marketer from way back, Alex. So I would love for you to put your marketing hat on with this. The following may sound a bit harsh, but they are fundamental human and marketing laws. Law number one, people are not interested in you or your product or your service. They're only interested in what you, your product, or your service can do for them. I know it's harsh. It's harsh. All they really care about is what you can do to make their lives easier, better, or more enjoyable. Happy wake ups. If you are in the mattress business, you should focus on helping your customer wake up happy and pain free. Law number two, people don't buy what they need, they buy what they want. People don't want you to sell them a product, they want you to solve their problem. And this isn't in the book, but Jeffrey Gitomer's quote is just jumping at me right now. People hate to buy, people hate to be sold, but they love to buy. So when you are working with a customer and you find the right solution, they're going to buy it from you if it's the right thing for them. Law number three, it's up to you, the marketer of your business, to align the emotional reasons why your product or service can solve the pains or fulfill the desires of your ideal target customer and get that message in front of them in the most effective way possible. And then number four, marketing is a process. It's not one and done. It's not an event. It never stops and only evolves and changes as dictated by the market. That's if you're a smart marketer. You pay attention and you make the changes. And law number five, good, effective marketing starts with you. What say you, Alex? What say you?
Well, I think there's a lot to unpack there, but I think one of the central kind of themes is, the mattress industry has a very unique approach to marketing, and that's because they can sell sleep instead of the mattress. So, to a lot of those points, it's really about selling the idea that they're going to get better sleep because of, XYZ. It's not look at this product and, look how beautiful this product is and how many, gadgets and whistles it has. It's about the sleep. And, they don't want to be sold. They want something that will solve their problem. And so there's a really cool, way that the sleep industry does that. And I think there's different ways for manufacturers and retailers, they both kind of have to do that. Retailers have to talk to the consumer, but manufacturers have to talk to the retailer in a way that they can relay that information to the end consumer, So, yeah, I think it's pretty interesting, and there's a really cool opportunity in this industry to kind of go wild with your marketing. It's not the furniture industry. It's not a stuffy, industry filled with old men. It's really a marketing centric industry focused on sleep, and we should all use that.
100%. Couldn't agree more. Steve
Yeah.
Hauk,
Hey,
my
Steve.
man. Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning, Steve. What say you about all this mattress firm acquisition stuff? I thought we were going to have a TSI roast, LOL. Steve, what say you? So just broad strokes before you get there. Um, I don't want to roast anybody. I want my industry that I've loved for 41 years and continue to love to be strong and healthy And I actually am one of the few that believe that a healthy mattress firm is good for the industry. And I think that our lead-in manufacturers, them being strong is good for our industry. I really do. But Alex made a very good point. And the point is that we are overlooking private labeling. And, one of the things, and this will be a little bit of self promotion, uh, Bed Industries of America, we're the largest private labeler of anybody. We make more private labels. And when you just talk about sheer volume of mattresses being shipped into America, nobody ships more private label mattresses than Bed Industries of America. So if you guys are looking for uh, an answer to your private labeling, to Alex's point, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of companies that can do it. Um, but I would especially encourage all of my listeners to give Bed Industries of America at least a good hard look. And I think the more you look, the more you'll like it. But that aside, that self promotion aside, one of the things that we all need to do if we own a store always is to look at our rate of sale. I had a guy um, call me last week and he said they came in here. Temper Sealy came in with a rep and their sales manager and told me I had to add 6 SKUs. I looked at my business and I can't give them 6 more SKUs because the 10 SKUs they have aren't performing. And so one of the things I said at the very beginning of this deep dive that me and Alex are having with you is let's take the emotion out, guys. Take the emotion out and let's look at the numbers. You know, is TSI on your floor, Temper Sealy, are they doing a good job in terms of are they paying their rent? Is each SKU paying their rent? And I'm all for understanding that it creates an umbrella to sell under and it's part of an overall merchandising point of view. But every SKU, as my friend Doug Stewart says, has to pay its rent. And not every SKU has to be a bestseller. Some SKUs set up additional sales, and that's okay too. But take the emotion out, look at what it really means to your business. And, maybe you do add the 6 SKUs that they're asking. Maybe it's important enough, and maybe there's enough unrealized potential that you do add it. And I don't work for Temper Sealy. I work for Bed and Industries of America. Okay. So I'm not trying to help them. I'm just trying to keep it real here because to me, the most important thing is for you to be a strong store. And everybody has to find their own path. Andy Friedman. Andy says, Pete, I'm with you on Mattress Firm. If Mattress Firm went away, this would be a catastrophe for the mattress industry. Well, thank you for agreeing with me. Got a question in there? The industry, yes, he does. The industry competes for consumers, and we need Mattress Firm advertising. Yeah, that's a great point that Andy made there, Alex.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's see what Steve Hauk has to say. Steve says, Mattress Firm will always be a competitor of mine. If I can keep a customer in my store and out of firm, I will continue to sell TSI. Well, there's a lot to unpack there, Alex. I'm going to let you, the journalist, have at this one.
I think that's understandable. But kind of back to Andy's point, the advertising that Mattress Firm does for the industry, the awareness that they bring to mattresses and now, more sleep. They've recently kind of changed their messaging. They've tried to change their messaging from, sale to here's, how we're trying to help you, and here's why sleep is important. But it's good to have competition. Let's say that. If you don't have competition, it's not everyone is just going to come to your store like you might think. So I think that the competition is good. I think that it also keeps people on their toes. It keeps them thinking about new ideas. And so, I can see why it would be, why, Steve, you might have some anger toward Mattress Firm or whatever. But I think in the end, competition is good. And Steve, I know that you're a smart guy, so you can definitely outsmart Mattress Firm.
Well, and not only that. So here's my little pep talk to every mattress store owner out there. 90% of you guys could just flat out outsell the employees at Mattress Firm. Now, I'm not saying Mattress Firm doesn't have some talent there, because they do. But there was a point in time where the very best and brightest of all the sales pros were at Mattress Firm. There was a point in time, and it wasn't that long ago. It was 10, 12 years ago, 15 years ago, where Mattress Firm did such an incredible job of recruiting people. One of my best friends who's out of the industry, Brian Pancos, who always listens to the show, he was recruited by Mattress Firm at his college. So, Chris, I know this is going to upset you, but he's a Spartan. I know you're a Wolverine, but my friend Brian is a Spartan, and he was recruited on their campus. And Brian was one of the smartest and most gifted guys I've ever met in the mattress industry. Really, really top-notch sales pro. So I agree that competition is good, but I also think that you guys have to give yourself credit for, there's a lot of the guys that are in the Mattress Network group are ex Mattress Firm guys in their heyday, and they were extraordinarily well trained. I mean, factory visits, the whole 9 yards. And they have become great store owners in their own right. And at the end of the day, when your customers are deciding who they're going to buy from, they're going to buy from whoever they're most connected to. And if your ability as a salesperson is greater, and they feel more connected to you, and they believe that you care about them as a human being, and that you are going to do the right thing for them, then you win. And so I think that talent does win in the end. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point, Pete. So think about kind of the disconnect between Mattress Firm's marketing and their in-store experience. So you see their marketing, it is top of the line. It's, beautiful imagery, famous, actors and actresses. It's, they go all out for it. But then you go into the store and, there's a 25-year-old who could care less about how you sleep at night, who just wants to, sell the best, the most expensive mattress that they have so that he makes the most commission, right? So the experience that you get when you walk in is not what you see in the commercials. But if there's a local store that, runs a TV advertisement or even just a web advertisement, and they, can bring someone in the store, and then once they're in there, show them that they actually care, that is what is going to, build a loyal customer and possibly build your ticket higher if they really do trust you and you can, find them a sleep solution that works. So I think that's pretty interesting to think about the disconnect between the marketing and the in-store, and how retailers can capitalize on that.
Wow, Alex, you just brought up solid gold. I know Jeff popped his head in here, and Jeff, if you're still there, you can jump in on this because I know this is who Gardner's Mattress is fundamentally. Um, Delivering a better and a different experience to the customer is what Jeff and Ben are all about at Gardner's Mattress and More. How do we provide an experience that is completely different than any other mattress store they'll ever walk in, and not only just different for different sake, but better, and helps them get the outcome of getting a better night's sleep and the benefits that are associated with that, waking up happy and pain free. That is the secret bullet. I've always talked about this disconnect for years and years. I've been talking about it. When you have a marketing message out there and then the experience in store does not dovetail into that, there's a problem. And what happens with your customer, what's going off in her head, and I mean her because 90% of the time it's her. And if it's not her, it's her still because it's going to be a her who makes a decision sooner or later, even if it's a guy that comes into the store. How do you make a customer feel when they come into the store? What is the feeling? Because I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to put a fine point on this. I'm 62 and doesn't matter anymore if somebody gets pissed off from Mattress Firm. I could care less. Um, I've heard more horror stories about Mattress Firm employees spinning on their heels and walking around going back to their desk and ignoring a customer because they found out that they wanted something that cost underneath, God forbid, $1,000. Because not if they put that to paper, it not only gets them a call from their regional manager, it also could play the opposite of heaven with their bonus structure, and they could lose all of their bonus commissions and their bonus structure if they put this deal down in writing. So they don't want to write the business. So this is what I would say to all store owners and all retailers. If you have a system in place that makes an RSA, a sales pro, want to ignore another human being, you need to rethink that process because it's not going to build your business long term. Might be good for short term profits, but it is not good for you long term. I can tell you that in my career, I was only in retail for 9 years. I had repeat customers that came back in, and I couldn't remember all of them, and they would say, yeah, we bought, you treated us so good, and we were just getting an apartment then, and now we're buying a house and we want some really good stuff, and you treated us so well when we just needed cheap stuff in the apartment that now we want to furnish our whole house with you because you treated us right. Mr. and Mrs. Executive, please think about this, what we're saying here. You're probably pulling back and getting angry at me. Don't get angry at me. I'm just telling you the truth. I have heard these stories again and again and again, and more frequently in the last few years. And so getting back to our original thing, Alex, is Mattress Firm really some company that doesn't give you lots of ways to compete against them? I mean, do people just buy based on brand? What we're learning more day by day, Alex, is today's consumer is less concerned about brand than any other consumer in the last few generations.
Yeah, definitely. I know it's really going to change, the game, and I think in a good way for manufacturers who can get in there, and for retailers who can sell products that are not just, you know, Tempered, Serta, big names like that. Purple, is going into retail stores now. So, um, yeah, I think Mattress Firm is kind of a necessary evil in this industry. But I am, looking forward to what Temper is going to do with Mattress Firm, assuming the acquisition goes through, and how they can really benefit the whole sleep industry by pushing that message out in a way that does not make it look like you're all used car salesmen.
Yeah. And, when we have sales pros that spin on their heels, go back to their desk and finish their crossword puzzle instead of asking really good questions of the customer because they're afraid it's going to ruin their bonus
Mm-hmm.
structure. Um, I would say this: TSI, you're about to buy Mattress Firm, fix that. Um, and I know, uh, what? Don't give them any good ideas. Okay, okay, I'll stop. Sorry. So listen, Alex, what is your best advice that you could give to a store owner that you've become close to and you care about them and you want them to succeed and you want them to win? What is your best advice regarding this likely acquisition that is going to happen? Most probably. By the way, I have to share this with you. I told the top 100, I said, it's likely to happen, but it's not 100%. He goes, Pete, it's 99%. And I
Yeah.
said, you know what? You're probably right, but let's just look at what the options are. And we did a deep dive on options. And Alex, to your point, and I'm glad you brought this up, one of the options that we talked about was private labeling and who's the brand. We had the discussion about who
Mhm.
is the brand. And
Yeah.
this is a retailer that's over 50 years old and third or fourth generation, family owned business, fabulous business. And they should have private labeled 20 years ago. But
Yeah.
what's your best
Yeah.
advice, Alex, to a store owner who's maybe perhaps a little worried about this or a little concerned about what's going to probably take place in 2024?
Yeah. I think my advice in general is really, you know, don't feel like it's a little guy pitted against a big guy. Look at your own market, stay in tune with your community, do local advertising. There are so many ways that smaller companies can compete with bigger companies, even though these bigger ones have more resources and money and all of that. But you really just have to kind of look inward and look at your own market and focus on yourself. Don't think too hard about what is this going to mean, especially because it's not happening for another 6 or 7 months. So um, yeah, I'd say just focus on yourself and focus on your business.
I think that's great advice. Focus on yourself, focus on your community, have an inward focus. And I'm going to add one thing to that. Don't borrow trouble from other people. Your friend in California might have got closed by TSI. You don't know what all the factors are. That doesn't mean you're going to be closed.
Mhm.
Don't jump off of a bridge if you don't have to. I, I,
Yeah.
I know that some people are bristling at that because everybody seems to be real eager to make moves now. But I would
Mhm.
say evaluate the numbers and really make moves that make sense for you. And please don't borrow other people's problems. But I agree 1,000% with with Alex. There's options. Private labeling is a great solution. And it's an opportunity to improve yourself and really focus on your customer experience because you always, no matter what you do, wherever your store is, it doesn't matter what state or city you're in, you always want to bring your customer to a place where you're strong, your service, your store, your brands are strong, and your competition is weak. And usually, when that happens, it is the right thing for the customer. And always, every bit of advice that we always give you, focus, focus, focus on your customer, give them the best experience possible, and you will win. Alex,
Yeah.
thank you so much, man. Great
Yeah.
advice and really great intel. The fact that you were on that call with Temper was very, very revealing. And
Yes. Yeah.
anybody
Yeah.
that
Well,
watched this, watch it over and over again, because I started off with a blank piece of paper and I ended up with like 50 things here. I started writing different colors. So thank you so much, Alex. Thank you,
yeah.
Chris,
Thanks,
for
Pete.
producing another great show. Thank you, Jeff Janakovo, for letting me join the Battlefield Alliance. And I will see all of you guys on the battlefield. Have a great day and sell a million.